We'll call this one, "This is why you're getting diarrhea." Sometimes people are like, "I'm sorry if this is FYI, but I had diarrhea." And I'm like, people send me pictures of parasites that come out in their stool. Poop talk never makes me uncomfortable. I had diarrhea for almost 2 years straight when I had a chronic CDiff infection, and it was horrible. I'm sure I've mentioned these things in other videos, but I'm trying to be more intentional about having videos on specific topics that are easy for people to find, because this is another frequently asked question or a topic that I am explaining on a regular basis, whether it be to people on Instagram or clients. Rendered fat is more likely to give you loose stools when compared to raw fat. What is rendered fat? Rendered fat is fat that has been rendered, or a better word might be liquefied fat. And a really good example of this would be the fat that cooks out when you make broth. When you make broth and there's a bunch of oil floating around in there, that's rendered fat. It's liquefied fat, and it is known for giving people loose stools. The reason is because when liquid fat enters your gallbladder, the fact that it's liquid means that it is passing through your gallbladder at a rate that your liver cannot produce enough bile to break it down. So it just goes straight through you. It can cause nausea, heart palpitations, diarrhea, most commonly loose stools, but it can cause really bad nausea for some people. And that's what rendered fat is known for. Some people who have struggled with years of constipation don't mind this at all. They literally would not mind having diarrhea for the rest of their life. I've had people tell me this many times, and it's hilarious. Diarrhea is not ideal. I would agree. I think loose stools is probably better than constipation, but we really don't want either. We want regular formed bowel movements, because chronic diarrhea can definitely cause dehydration. Sometimes inflammation in the colon. I know, because it happened to me. So rendered fat. This other examples would be, someone who puts a lump of butter, a pat of butter on their steak whenever they eat it, when their steak is nice and hot. Well, that butter in 5 minutes is mostly melted all over your plate, all over your steak. That is rendered fat. Even butter in a solid form is condensed fat. It's been melted into that form. It's been not melted, but condensed into that form. Tallow, even if it's cold from the jar or it's been re-solidified, has already been rendered. Tallow is rendered fat. And when it's in your mouth, it's going to be melting within seconds. And then the whole cascade that I described, it just goes through your gallbladder really quickly. So what do we do? If you are having loose stools, my suggestion would be try more solid fat. Number one is suet. Suet is the fat that is specifically found around the kidneys of any animal. Suet is the second richest source of stearic acid. The first richest source, if you know, leave it in the comments. Don't Google it. That's not fun. Suet is very waxy. It's like eating a candle or a crayon. It's not enjoyable. But a lot of people start eating more and more suet because it makes them feel good, because it's loaded with stearic acid. Stearic acid is a super nutrient. It helps you to actually burn more fat. It promotes mitochondrial fusion, which is when two damaged mitochondria fuse together to create a new healthy cell. Mitochondria is where we produce ATP. Suet and stearic acid are amazing things. So that suet is what I relied on heavily for a long time to get in the amount of fat that I was wanting to get when I was eating really high fat. The other solid fat sources, or easier to digest, less likely to give you diarrhea, cacao butter. This is actually a plant fat. It is saturated fat, and it comes in little discs. It's basically chocolate without the cocoa, chocolate without the oxalate content. It's called cacao butter. And then the fat connected to the meat that you're eating. Now, yes, that will be cooked unless you're eating raw, but that is still not liquefied. So like the fat on lamb chops from Billy Doe Meats, that's a big bite of fat. I do not particularly enjoy eating big blobs of fat on beef, but on lamb, yes, especially from Billy Doe Meats. It's delicious. Or raw fat trimmings. Sounds disgusting. Definitely not as yummy as crispy fried fat trimmings, but it's more digestible. So if you are having loose stools, It doesn't mean that you have to cut out all the rendered fat, but I would definitely be cautious of drinking your fat. Just be cautious. Everyone has a threshold. That's the deal. Egg yolks are another fantastic source of fat. So you can cook fat into eggs. Like instead of putting melted butter on your steak, put it in your scrambled eggs, because that will allow the fat to transit through your system at a much slower rate versus just a puddle on your plate that you're basically drinking. My lemon custard recipe is a great one that the fat can be higher or lower. The fat can be added to my carnivore brownies, or you can do lower fat. That can be kind of, customized in terms of fat. Hollandaise sauce, which is egg yolks and butter. That's a good way to get in fat. That's not just, yes, it's a sauce, but since it has those egg yolks in it, it's much thicker. And again, it's going to transit through your system at a much slower rate. So this is why you're getting diarrhea, most likely. I hope that this helps someone out there.